With one party member down, but saddlebags full of treasure, how is the group going to react to the next foray into the Olde Island Fortress? Grab a brew, come along. Hello again guys, Kenny the Basic Brit back for session 6 of the Western Lands campaign, and this is normally the turning point statistically in most games where they start to fall apart. We had our 11th or 12th session the other Monday. We've took a 1 week break because it was my wife's birthday, but other than that things are going really well. We've lasted and everyone seems to be enjoying the game. On the last session, a quick recap then. We lost the party elf. The elven thief Myrin unfortunately met his end to a particularly nasty patch of yellow mould. Yeah, unfortunately Myrin didn't survive that encounter. The rest of the party were pretty intent after encountering the goblin Fatbelly that they were going to head back to town. They released him and it looks like he could potentially be turning up again in the future, but they honoured the word, so that's got to count for something, right? All that being considered, they did manage to loot a pretty sizable amount of treasure from the Olde Island Fortress. So without further ado, we are just going to get straight into it and pick up where we left off with the group on the road back to town. It's a sombre yomp back to Morgan's fort for the group. Donkey in tow, carrying their comrade and all the treasure that they managed to collect. Rather than playing the expediting tune that she normally does, Liana is playing a small lament for their fallen friend. They're going to take the time with this one. But funnily enough, they meet another traveller on the road, a hooded human, kinda dark and shady looking, who starts to ask after an elf who would have been travelling in these parts. Funny how that works, isn't it? This is Myrin's player's new PC, Ezekiel. Now, I spoke with Myrin's player, now Ezekiel's player, and we wanted him to get straight back into the game as soon as possible. He was very comfortable playing a thief, so that's the route he went down. Rolled up a new thief and we just got him straight back into the campaign. The guys met him on the road. The newcomer and the party share the tale of how the elf was slain, and Ezekiel admits he is also quite handy with a lockpick and a blade, and offers his services to the party. Remember guys, don't get too attached to those low level PCs. It doesn't take them long, and while travelling back to town, they get to know Ezekiel a little bit better. His player maybe says a few words too many and lets slip that he's from a thieves guild, which makes me and some of the other players chuckle a little bit. Not a very sneaky thief. When the group arrives back at the walls of the town, the gate guards see the adventurers and the grim cargo they carry and usher them through quickly. The intent is to lay Myrin to rest in the chapel till they figure out what to do with him. Splug goes relatively unnoticed as Bluebell has acquired some clothes for him, and most of the time he's well covered by these baggy garments. Still, she thinks to err on the side of caution and books a private room at the inn and takes him straight there. Now, Bluebell spends the rest of the time in town pretty much ensuring Splug doesn't go wandering, as the group are smart enough to figure out leaving a goblin in the town without any supervision is a recipe for disaster. She pays a couple of silver pieces to arrange for the bath to be brought up to their room, as she's intent on cleaning him. We'll see how well that goes. Splug's more than happy to be quiet in town, as he prefers to opt for the path of self-preservation. The rest of the group go straight to the chapel of St. Queril and speak with Father Thelbane, the local high priest. An ex-adventuring cleric and a devout of Tar, he spends his days administering the town's religious and spiritual needs, dishing out the odd healing prayer when needed, for a donation to the clergy of course, or waxing lyrical about his days spent on the road. The group notice he has a prominent limp, quite an obvious sign of early retirement from his day's adventuring, they assume. After a few words are spoken between the group and the priest, he agrees to lay the elf in the chapel of rest, and Ezekiel says he would have wanted to be cremated. Now, they don't have a clue about elf funeral procedures and go for the most efficient method here. Without them knowing, it's also the cheapest as it stands. Well, other than throwing him out to the sea. Father Thelbane says the arrangements will be made in a day or two, and then the group can come to the grave garden just outside of town for the ceremony. Till then, they go about their usual business of resting up and recovering. A full day of rest later and some full bellies, it isn't long before the funeral is a go. Father Thelbane has set up a small pyre for the elf, and his priests carry his body and lie him on top. The scent of incense and oils burns and hangs in the air. The group somberly forms a circle around the pyre and bow their heads in an act of remembrance. One of Father Thelbane's apprentices approaches with a torch and slowly starts to light the kindling underneath the pyre. Slowly the wood starts to crack, and the sounds and smells of the funeral start to fill the air. Some of the group stick around until the fire is completely burned out. Some leave halfway through after feeling like they've paid their dues, and before long, Myrin is but a memory. The party regroup and vow to finally clear this first level of dungeon. After another day in town, they decide to head back to the Olde Island Fortress. Their pace is brisk as Lyanna once again strikes up the travelling song. A journey that should take 4 hours seemingly goes by like a breeze. Before long, once again they're stood in front of the small fording point and the ominous broken tower standing on its little island. Bob is once again instructed to wait outside with the donkey, keep watch, and shout down the stairway if anything comes. Malik's lantern is lit. Bluebell once again strikes a torch. Straight down the stairs, they start to explore the eastern side of the corridors. No random encounters this time as they briskly cut through familiar passages. The group sees a large, heavy wooden door at the end of the eastern passageway. Nothing too suspicious about it just yet, but they do hear scuttling and a yipping sound coming from inside. The door is locked, but between Trotek and Jarek, they're strong enough to force it open and burst into a room filled with a mixture of unarmed and armed kobolds. A huge fight breaks out almost instantaneously. The party have had it with these little creatures. Trotek and Jarek wade into battle without another thought. Jarek swings with his new magical blade, courtesy of Myrin, cut down kobolds left and right, while Trotek, once again in mad barbarian glee, swings his battle axe in huge scathing arcs. The front rank of kobolds can do nothing to sustain the defence and are cut down easily. Bullets from Lyanna and Bluebell's slings fly through the air and find their mark. Orlan's not shy to get stuck in with his gnarled wooden staff. Malik isn't sure whether he should use his sleep spell yet, and decides to guard the rear and warn the party if anything's coming. He wants to keep it in his back pocket for a rainy day. The new party member, Ezekiel, is peppering the kobolds from a distance with his shortbow. With such a big battle and at risk of being drawn out and a battle of attrition being bad for the party, they consolidate their attack for any of the kobolds that are armed. It doesn't take long before they start to get the upper hand. Some of the kobolds break away to the western side of the room and make for a secret passage that leads back out into the corridor. Orlan quickly breaks left, cuts off their escape, kills a kobold outright with one swift strike to the noggin. Before long, the party have taken just a little bit of damage, but the kobolds are completely decimated. Within the room, the group find their treasure hoard, and what looks to be a scroll case. Malik inspects it and finds out it's a scroll of knock. Definitely something that could come in handy if they come across another of these locked doors and don't want to make a scene. As the group start cleaning down their gear and finish looting, they decide to hunker down in this room for just a minute while they catch their breaths. And that was session 6. It was a shorter session to recap for you guys. They did spend 2 days in town just for the funeral of Myrin. Other than that, they wanted to get straight back into the dungeon, straight back into the fight. They did spend a little bit of time wandering the corridors, but it wasn't really going to be too interesting to recap for you guys, so I just kind of left that out as they kind of did a couple of circles throughout the dungeon. But it was a really big fight with the Kobolds, and that is their numbers completely decimated now, and the party is pretty sure that they're not going to be much of a problem in here anymore. They were one of the big players down here, probably one of the bigger forces, and I dished out a little bit of extra experience for completely clearing out the den, as I do find basic fantasy to be, rules as written, a little bit stingy with the experience points, but it makes it, for that really slow progression, in my opinion, a little bit more realistic. But like I was saying at the start of the video, we're on session 12 next week. I'm recording more of my session notes to recap for you guys. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's watching. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up. Consider subscribing, as there's more to come, and comment down below with what you want to see more of. Do you want some more session recaps? Do you want some deep dives into monsters? Just give me some ideas in the comments below, guys. Without further ado, I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.